Hi, my name is Joseph, and welcome to part 2-4 of Digimon Seekers Hacker Leon WWW Airlines Flight 626. So, as always, my new format, which is going to begin right away with the quotes that I chose. And this quote's actually quite near the beginning of this part. What do you think Tartarus would do once they have the state secret Mega Digimon? E.g. asked. The Airjamon, mind linked to Marvin, pooed further out in front. They were operating in terms of two. They were operating in teams of two, with each pair approaching from a different direction. What do you mean, have? Marvin shot back. Well, the orders are to capture it, right? Not destroy it. Stealing the head of a multinational terrorist organization's prized pet Digimon was going to be way harder than simply killing it. E.g., look, you're more interested in Tartarus and the whole SOC organization than you are in this operation, aren't you? E.g. could hear the hesitation in Marvin's voice. Well, man, this operation has been all I can think about. I didn't even sleep last night. I'm gonna slip up and draw attention to us cause I'm too tired. Can we please focus on the mission first? Marvin suddenly felt that he clearly overestimated EG's abilities, which is good news for me, EG the spy, but still. So the reason why I like this quote, as always, it seems like most of the quotes that I pick, there's two factors or two facets as to why I enjoy them. Usually at least two, sometimes it's a bit more than that. But the first part is just how astute Marvin is. Well, actually, I guess it's a little bit more than two. The first part being how astute Marvin is, but also how careless EG is. I mean, he was warned by Professor Ruzenji to be careful that he is first and foremost a spy. That's his role, that's his duty, and why he's working with the professor. That was told to EG 2 parts ago. I think in the first part of chapter 2, actually, if not in part 2. But yet here we have EG, who, and I understand his enthusiasm to try to get to the bottom of what Tartarus is doing, especially with Operation Infinity. But he's not being very coy about it. He's being just very obvious. Let me rephrase that. Not obvious in that he's working for someone else, but a little bit obvious in that he's trying to dig for information, right? So that's two aspects that I like, just reinforcing EG's impatientness, or rather reinforcing EG's naivety nature. But also just highlighting how Marvin, well, he's an individual who one can't just slip something under them. He's going to be paying attention. I like that a lot about Marvin and about Airjamon as well. I'm just mentioning Airjamon because they're partners. Can't mention one without the other, in my opinion. Can't mention one human without their digital partner, in my opinion. So sorry that my cat bumped into the, let me make sure, because I'm away from the, okay, everything looks good. I'm on the web page, that's why. My cat nudged into the camera, or the laptop. And then this other aspect, the third aspect I want to discuss, is how quickly, again, although EG is naive, he does show that he's quick on his feet. His little white lie, man, his operation's been all I could think about. Didn't even sleep last night. And despite me saying Marvin's astute, EG was playful enough that he tricked Marvin, right? Marvin suddenly felt that he clearly overestimated EG's abilities. And I wouldn't, after reading the part, if I was in Marvin's position, I would not want to be feeling like that, mostly because, well, it gets revealed, and that's actually one of the parts we're going to read, one of the quotes, that EG and Marvin are the head, the spear of Operation Infinity. Everything's everything's revolving around them and the actions that they do. Essentially, the success of this operation is mostly on these two teams, four in total, right? EG, Logomon, Marvin, and Urgemon. So continuing forward, the other quote I want to look at, there on the other side of the wall, Marvin said as he and Edgemon looked down. EG lowered Logomon's gaze too. What they saw looked like a planet amid a sea of stars, with a surface not unlike the Earth's crust. The digital world, which no one had ever seen set foot inside. Excuse me, start over. My cat distracted me. She knocked over something on the side with her tail. The digital world, which no one had ever set foot inside, lay beyond the firewall, deep down below them. Then again, the digital world wasn't exactly below them either. The constructions of the real and digital worlds were completely different. If you were to lay it all out, EG guessed, it would look like a gigantic, sprawling space colony. There were Digimon living in there, though, and likely in far better conditions than what he'd seen in the Wasp slum. I just really like this. For me, when I read this the first time, and the second time as well, I do read these usually 2 times. The first just for pleasure, then the second what quotes I want to pick out. I couldn't help but feel like, again, I said this with the chapter one. I feel like with this story of Digimon Seekers, we're really feeling that the protagonist is a pioneer rather than just an adventurer. Again, what's the difference between a pioneer and adventurer? Adventurers typically, well, they're adventuring. Everyone's already aware of the savannah, for example. No one's really unaware, or there's really no mystery. We are aware about that area, and one is going to go there to adventure. A pioneer, on the other hand, it's similar to an adventurer or adventuring. The difference being is that they're going to areas that's unexplored, areas that's unknown, and so thus it's not known to the public. It's not known to most people. Thus, the pioneers are exploring a new area, and it's really felt like the equivalent of humans going in a spaceship and seeing other planets for the first time. I know that probably sounds dramatic, but I don't mind using that analogy just because Digimon Seekers actually used a space analogy in chapter one, specifically for what I can't recall, unfortunately, but I do know for a fact, for sure, that Seekers did use a space analogy. So I just really like this because it really shows how the individuals are stepping to something that they're not used to. Excuse me, everyone, I keep rubbing my nose because of my cat's fur. I had to brush her, so pardon me for that, though. I do thank you for your patience. Hopefully, it doesn't look too funny. That's mostly what I liked about that quote, just the world building, essentially. Moving forward, one theory about Tadara's identity is that they're... Sorry, everyone, let me drink some quick water. Excuse me. I do thank you for your patience. Excuse me about that. One theory about Tadara's identity is that they're a researcher trying to reach the digital world, which would make them like Professor Ruzunji. Was that why they needed such a powerful Digimon? Is Tadara's trying to bust through the wall? Eiji gave voice to the question he backed himself into. Maybe. That wasn't a satisfying answer. They're no ordinary code cracker. They're taking on challenges in the digital world, looking for something. Always looking for something. Marvin showed off. Anything in particular? Not money or fame, obviously. The freedom everyone on the team talks about, Eiji persisted. Could be. Or a piece of the network on which to build their own country, Marvin said. A country on which to raise an army of hackers that would commit cyber terrorism on governments around the world, Eiji guessed. I can't help but feel that last sentence, Eiji's guess, is a red herring. So what is a red herring? It's just meant to make one believe one idea, but in reality, it's something else completely, right? It looks like it's evidence to suggest one conclusion, but it's not true. It's usually a misdirection. It's meant to make us go to a false conclusion. I truly do believe that the Sons of Chaos is not going to be a bad force. They're going to be a positive force, much like how the Professor is a positive force. When we first started Digimon Seekers, I was concerned at first that the Professor would be a little bit kind of like those crazy scientists, and it turns out he was a true villain all along. I don't think that's going to be the case, nor do I think the Sons of Chaos is this malevolent group as well. I think at the end, when we finally do discover who Tartarus is, we're going to discover, we being the audience and also the characters as well, that Tartarus has some good intentions as to his actions. He's probably going to be the same coin as Professor Ruzunji is. Professor Ruzunji is on the side of research through legal means, while as Tartarus, I mean, right here, it can't just be a coincidence. One theory about Tartarus' identity is that they're a researcher trying to reach the digital world, so another researcher going through illegal activities, right? This is also known as Chekhov's gun. Since it's being mentioned, hopefully they're going to come back to this information in the future. It'll be really cool if they do, right? Why mention this if it has no bearing to the story? So I think this is meant to be foreshadowing that Tartarus, like Professor Ruzunji, is a researcher himself, and he's trying to figure out a way to help the digital world. It's just that he's never communicated with the Professor, and that's why they're on opposite sides. But again, really emphasizing Eiji, he just, in the first quote that I read, right, he was too enthusiastic about the goals and objectives of Tartarus as a whole, and he's doing it again right here, right? Thankfully, Marvin wasn't really tipped off, and he just answered the question. But yeah, I really like this quote because I think it has a lot of foreshadowing. So those vortexes, Eiji said, turning his attention back to Marvin. Has anyone been brave enough to dive into one? What code cracker hasn't found a vortex they want to dive into? Marvin said with a mischievous grin. But the gaps in the firewall, right? And that's what's keeping us from exploring the depths of the digital world. Sorry, there's a hiccup. Eiji showed off, hoping Marvin would see what he was implying. I'm sure countless code crackers have sent their Digimon into those things. Eiji pictured storm chasers sailing sensors into a tornado, or scientists launching probes to investigate the surface of a harsh and unforgiving planet. The vortexes and the depths of the digital world were drawing in everyone's curiosity and taking their senses of adventure. And what happened to them? If any lucky code crackers manage to return from the deaths with a trove of interesting data, I haven't heard about it. Marvin's story wasn't any different from Logomon's. Your corporal form might survive, but your consciousness would not, was the wording Logomon used, if memory is served. So this really helps to reinforce the world building. We got an explanation about DMIA and the consciousness, the linking that the Digimon have with their partners. And I like how essentially what Logomon has stated, you're just realizing that that must be true because, well, Marvin's explaining the same situation but with different wording. He's essentially paraphrasing what Logomon has stated, right? I really like that because it just reinforces the world building that's been set up. It makes the story feel a lot more organic, in my opinion, because topics don't just get brought up once typically. Usually in the real world, when we have conversations with our friends, family, coworkers, and so forth, topics tend to come up multiple times. And sometimes something we'll discuss with one group, we end up discussing with another group, right? So in this instance, E.G. talked about the vortexes with Logomon. I don't think he's talked about it yet with the professor, but now he's talking about it with Marvin. Really like how natural this is. At least for me, that's the impression that I'm getting, the organic nature of the storytelling. I also like, so this also mentioned the space analogy. This was not the one that I was thinking about when I made my other one. But totally forgot there was a space analogy in this chapter as well, so I don't feel as silly in my other analysis. I just really like how they make real world analogies, the storm chasers, just to help readers to get a better understanding, a better grasp of what it is that's being compared here, that what it is that's being described. But yeah. The next quote, there's a story going around that says you'll catch a glimpse of the system administrator if you do go through one, a vortex. But like all good ghost stories, they say it kills you, Marvin said with a wry smile. Say what? You know, like all the old legends say, you burn up if you catch even a glimpse of the true face of a god, etc., etc., Marvin said, adding, just don't go near those vortexes, you won't like what comes out. This was an unwritten rule, even for the SOC. And there's actually a little bit above this. True, the digital world system administrator won't let anyone from the real world intrude, E.G. said, finishing the rest of Logomon's thought aloud. If the system administrator really exists, it's not a form you can conceive of, Marvin said flatly. I just want to read that part in connection to the quote that I just read. But the main part is the one that I read out loud, the first portion. The system administrator. Can't help but feel like this would be a character that would definitely come back to. Maybe not a character, but an action, a place. The system administrator will be making another appearance, essentially, what I do believe. And like with the Sons of Chaos, I don't think the system administrator will be a malevolent force, a negative force. I think it's going to be benevolent, but I might be wrong about that. Because so far, I really don't know who the villain of this story is going to be. But I think it's because the villain has not yet been introduced. For all I know, maybe it's a natural entity that will be rearing up its head. Or because of the whole humans intruding into the digital world, some kind of, what's the word, security system, self-defense system is going to activate, right? I've been trying to figure out who the villain's going to be, and I honestly don't know who it will be. I know I repeated myself, excuse me. Is that a bad thing? Honestly, at this point, no, I don't think it is. It's barely chapter 2, barely part 4 of chapter 2. Chapter 1 was mostly all about the world building, and so far, chapter 2, I think it's doing a great job of pushing the story and the narrative forward. So it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of chapter 2, we got some inklings of who the real villain is. But I'm really enjoying this who could it be? Who are we targeting kind of thing going on in the background. And I like how this mystery starts to do this cat's fur. I like how the mystery as well about the system administrator. They're like a quote unquote god, or are they? Right? Maybe it's just an action, kind of like with well, kind of like with Digimon Tamers. It was kind of like the D Reaper wasn't a biological form itself. It just kind of evolved from a security measure. So maybe that's what's going on here as well. But yeah. And these vortexes too, I love how everyone's avoiding them. The Digimon who live in the Wasp slum, the Digipolice, and even the SOC. We could safely assume that code crackers in general, they're all going to be avoiding these vortexes. Whatever they were about to get into, the X-Nation server might visit death upon them too. Whether they were ready for it or not, living in the digital world's easier said than done, E.G. grumbled. And that's what the hotshot code cracker thinks. What chance do the rest of us have? You young kids are all style, no substance. Everything's gotta be a fun game to you, Marvin sniped, showing his age. Oh, you just wait until I put my game face on, E.G. shot back. Here's a little tip for you, Marvin snarled. Not a single person on any of the missions Tartarus has ever led, a single person at any of the missions Tartarus led has ever DMIA'd. So that's Tartarus' leadership credential. Not bad. Everyone must really trust Tartarus. They must have some charisma, and they could organize an entire attack team within the SOC. That counted for something. So this quote, I might ruffle some feathers a little bit. Two aspects I like about this. The first part, if that's what the hotshot codecracker thinks, what chance do the rest of us have? You young kids are all style, no substance. Everything's got to be a fun game to you. I can't help but feel like the writers are being meta with this statement, kind of talking about, or rather taking this into the real world as well. Just because I have noticed that a lot of young individuals these days, when it comes to independent thought or thinking critically, they kind of struggle with it. They struggle with following instructions if one is not guiding them. So I kind of liking how they're kind of setting up this not a dichotomy of us versus them. Rather, I'm hoping this will become a conversation. The story continues of Marvin, an older individual, speaking with E.G., a younger individual, because obviously they are working together. So their abilities they are gonna have to mesh together. And what better way to properly work together than actually serving as a community, right? Rather than being isolated individuals who bump heads with one another. So I'm hoping this will lead to further conversations in future chapters. I might be giving too much credit to Digimon Seekers. But why did EG state this reply? Why did he say this comment in the first place? It's because he was thinking about the vortexes. He was thinking about being DIMA'd. So for EG, it's just, again, becoming a little bit, he's realizing this is a lot. And that's why he thought whatever they're about to get into the X Nation server might visit death upon them too. I mean, they're doing their own form of cyber terrorism. They being the SOC, they're infiltrating X Nation's server to steal a tool that they have, right? That Digimon, Messengermon, to steal the tool that I'm trying to use broad terms on purpose and then use specific terms after that. But they're trying to steal Messengermon from a nation, right? It's not just going to the market or going to your local store and getting what one needs, right? These are illegal, illicit activities. So he's just thinking about all these factors, and that's why he says living in the digital world is easier said than done, right? So he's essentially kind of complaining at this instance. He wants his cake and to eat it too. Wants things to be adventurous, progressive, as in advancing his livelihood, but doesn't want things to be too dangerous, right? And so that's why Marvin states his little comment, right? But I like how EJ doesn't take offense at that comment. He says, "Oh, I have my game face on." But Marvin snarled. Marvin snarled. That's such a heavy word to use. I'd like to see the original translation. Maybe Marvin respond. I don't know. Maybe it is snarl, but not a single person at any of the missions Tartarus led has ever DMA'd. Maybe him snarling makes sense because it really does feel like everyone has such reverence towards Tartarus. And here is Marvin essentially soothing EG's nerves, letting EG know everything's gonna be fine. The digital world might be a dangerous place. It's kind of like being in Africa without the tour group. There's lions over there, cheetahs over there, and hippos behind you, right? You might be in a dangerous area, but don't worry. You're part of a team, and nothing's ever gone awry. Everything will be a-okay, right? So yeah, I really do like this because it says a lot about the situation at hand. And it says a lot about Tartarus, despite Tartarus not being present on the page yet, right? Very awesome. I appreciate that. Moving on, EG, you, me, Arjumon, and Logomon are the keys to this whole operation, Marvin barked. I like the sound of that, EG chirped. All the support teams are engaged in a full frontal cyber attack on the server. Even the team trying to infiltrate the server as a decoy for you and me. We're going to head straight for their secret Digimon, so do your best to conserve that mind link time, Marvin said as they emerged from a wireframe tunnel. Real world servers were about the least organic things EG had ever seen. They looked like a retro game from decades past. It was wild how much changed up the scenery. What I'm hearing is you and I are going to capture that basically mega Digimon. So this just is the reveal that, again, as I stated earlier, the focal point of who the success of this mission hinges upon Marvin and EG specifically. Although the team as a whole is obviously important because they're serving as distractions for the rest of the security force. At the end of the day, for Operation Infinity, it's going to be specifically Marvin and EG with Logomon and Erjumon who are going to bring back and capture Messengermon. So I just really like this revelation. I thought this operation was going to be with EG working with a bunch of quote unquote randoms, a bunch of blueberries. Call them blueberries since I play Destiny. If one doesn't play Destiny 2, just means that the individuals who don't typically work with teams, they work individually. So blueberry. I thought that we with a bunch of randos of blueberries just trying to accomplish this mission, but it's really cool to see how they're actually working together, not just as a team, but with specific goals, specific purposes that this team has, right? Really cool. Makes me wonder though, I wonder if the rest of the group is aware that Marvin, or rather let me rephrase that, I wonder if the rest of the higher ups were aware, partaking in Operation Infinity, that it was specifically Marvin and EG who were the focal point of this plan. But yeah. I also just like this quote because it's very action filled as well. Makes one think while EG and Marvin's doing this, I could imagine the rest of the teams as well doing what they were doing. So continuing forward, yo, this is too much, EG yelled, quaking with fear. This is after they see Machine Digimon. Codecracker or not, EG was never going to take seeing his first Mega Digimon in stride. Much less one he was supposed to help capture. It's nothing more than a dog in a chain. Less even, Logomon growled. What are you talking about? EG said incredulously. Look at it. It's held in place by a bunch of tools. Logomon was right. Machinedramon was lashed to the docks of this massive hangar inside the X-Nation server, bound hand and foot by cuffs of code. The beast laid out another series of low wars. Neither Niji, no, excuse me everyone, I'm sorry. Let me, I'm going back to, let me just, quickly, excuse me, rub my nose really quick. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience though. Oh, my cat's fur is really irritating me. I need to walk down my desk as well. That's why I looked over there because there's some fur there as well. Anywho, sorry. What are you talking about? Look at it. It's held in place with a bunch of tools. Logomon was right. Machinedramon was lashed to the docks of this massive hangar inside the X-Nation server, bound hand and foot by cuffs of code. The beast set out another series of low wars. Neither EG nor Marvin could tell what it was trying to say, but the wars didn't sound particularly angry, sad, or vengeful. They were lifeless. They won't let it live, but they won't kill it either. They're just wringing every little bit of power out of it. What a pathetic existence. Logomon looked at Machinedramon with an unusual amount of sympathy. So what I like about this quote is just, because when I think about the anime, the Chosen Children, the Digidestin, they always come across some, when one thinks about it, some pretty terrible, hideous opponents. And sometimes they do react, they do show some fear. But it is true, if one in real life is meeting Machinedramon, I think most of us would be like EG, right? And the worst part is that EG has to interact with this Machinedramon. He has to do a objective, which is not just to kill, but to capture this Machinedramon. I would argue, as EG pointed out, that capturing is going to be a harder action versus just killing. But also what I like about this quote is that it shows how Logomon, even though he is curt, even within his curtness, he still has sympathy. He feels, he empathizes with Machinedramon and how this Machinedramon really has no life. He or she's being forced to live its life as a tool for X Nation, which is, as Logomon says, no way to live, and he wouldn't want this upon any of his anyone that he knows, right? It's not a great existence. It's a really sad quote as well. I like how, because when I think of Machinedramon, I do think of the Dark Masters, and also from Digimon Adventure Tri. Machinedramon is a intimidating Digimon, but this is my first time where I actually kind of felt empathy as well towards the Machinedramon, especially when it's described. The beast laid out another series of low wars. Now, the EG and Marvin could tell what it was trying to say, but the wars didn't sound particularly angry, sad, or vengeful. They were lifeless. It just sounds really saddening, and I'm hoping that this Machinedramon will play. Kind of like with the Tyrannomon, I thought that they were gone from the story. Then all of a sudden they appeared, and EG was much more warmer towards them. I'm hoping the same will be done with Machinedramon as well. And we'll see what occurs from that. So now this is Marvin after Digimon digivolves into Mega Digimon. Actually, before I continue, I don't want to read any quote from it, but I think an important aspect from this part is before they, being Marvin and EG, Logomon, and Airdramon, reach the room that Machinedramon is in, there's actually a locked door, and they don't know how to get past it. And Logomon actually states that he would take care of it, tells EG to set his systems to decode, and the interface on Logomon's forehead starts glowing and the door is able to be open. I'm pretty sure that's going to play an important part in the story and the plot in the future. Everyone was shocked about this. Even EG was shocked at how easily Logomon was able to open the door, and he did his best to not show it to Marvin. And Edgermon even did like a little spin. It reminded me of a ghost from Destiny when the ghosts get excited. But Edgermon got excited as well and spun in the air. It was a cute scene. Anyways, but adorable scene. So again, Airlines has Digivolved to Megajimon, and they're trying to break the shackles on Machine Dramon to capture the Machine Dramon. Missiles flew out of Megajamon's hands, landing out over Machine Dramon. The blasts tearing into the code, keeping it restrained. Hey, watch it! You're gonna kill it! EG screamed, his nerves jangling. The Machine Dramon remained still and couldn't move. Mega Digimon or not, it was completely under human control. Could it even still be considered a proper Machine Dramon? Relax. I'm only targeting its restraints, Marvin said dismissively. It may be all chained up, but it's still a Mega Digimon. The only way we're gonna capture it is by force. By force? Gotta bust this thing out of its chains and use our own capture tool on it. Time to tear him up. Marvin growled, crossing Megajamon's arms. And the part that I really want to focus on was the first part. I just read the second half because it reminded me, I don't know if anyone's seen Hulu's The Bear, but Let It Rip. Also from Beyblade too, Let It Rip. But tear him up. Anyways, but that was a tangent. I like this quote a lot because it shows EG's concern. If he's not aware that Marvin's trying to break the chains. It's not until after the attack has been commenced that's explained to him. And so, because he was unaware about that, EG's showing that, well, we shouldn't be hurting this Machine Dramon. It's already suffering, right? Or lifeless. Lifeless is a form of suffering, I would argue, right? Who wants to be lifeless? But just really emphasizing EG's warm side. I do like that a lot. Also, even though Marvin might seem cold, especially with the word dismissive being used, I think it's awesome that he was making sure to attack the shackles, and that was his plan from the beginning. There was like no, if it wasn't his plan, it didn't state the wording, didn't say something like, oh, Marvin was caught off guard. Marvin didn't realize that EG cared this much, right? Marvin obviously didn't want to hurt this Machine Dramon. Though one could argue maybe it's because he wants to make sure that the tool is functional, that the tool will be usable by the SOC, right? But I'm going to hope that it's the former, and that's because Marvin cares as well, but he's just showing his care in a different kind of way. And that's essentially it. I know I'm not doing the summary anymore, but in this instance, I actually do want to read the ending part because I think it ends in a really exciting kind of way. A cross-shaped, after Megajimon does his attack, Ultimate Slicer, a cross-shaped slash briefly through the air, shredding the data that held Machijamon in place. That did it. Pop, crack, hiss, pop, pop, pop. Firework-like sparks filled EG and Logomon's sight. Electrostatic charges, the constant flickering and rumbling completely disoriented EG inside Logomon's Gigi core. What the heck are those flashing lights? Electricity is the lifeblood of Digimon, but too much of it can overload their system and break them from within. In the absence of visuals, Logomon turned to its nose. Mega, deity, vaccine. Did you say Mega? EG squeaked, his voice cracking as he took in the data on his monitor. There's another Mega Digimon in here? The light gradually faded. Lightning-like posts of electricity danced along the walls as sparks leapt across the open air of the hangar. Whoosh, a rush of air. Neither EG nor Logomon could believe what they were seeing. What the? No! Megajimon! That's how part 4 of chapter 2 ends. So more than likely what's occurring right here is that Leon has appeared on the scene and he's here with Postmon, but Postmon is not in his rookie form. He's digivolved to his Mega form. That's what I'm predicting is going to happen in the next part. And I think, unfortunately, Megajimon has been taken off from the chessboard. And more than likely this means that Logomon will be evolving into his Mega form as well. We got Logarmon in chapter 1, and we'll be getting his Mega form. His Mega form in chapter 2. I'm doing my best to not follow along with the Digimon Encyclopedia, so I do know how the evolved forms look because I do have the Vital Bracelet and the Logomon BE specifically, but I haven't yet unlocked those Digimons yet, so I really did like this part. I think it was action-filled in a really fun kind of way. Not only was it action-packed, but it also had a lot of great world-building elements as well, and also characterization. There's always, I think that's one aspect I really do enjoy about Digimon Seekers, is the fact that there's always some characterization, even if it is minor, and I really do appreciate that. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you for your patience as well. If you made it this far, please let me know. What do you think your predictions are going to be for the next part? Do you think it is Postmon? I'm going to try, excuse me everyone, sorry. I'm going to try doing something new as well. If you made it to this part of the video, let me know what's your favorite Digimon season? And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. Have a prodigious day. If you're reading the story as well, please let me know what your opinions on it. And take care. I'll see everyone next week. Bye bye.